Welcome, everybody, to another edition of What's Your Story? Thank you all so much for showing up again. I have such a unique and just crazy opportunity to meet the most beautiful and blessed people. And the fact that you guys are interested to learn their stories is just profoundly humbling and just keeps me in gratitude for all of you. So thank you. Today I get to speak with Karen Rudolph, who instant soul connection. I was like, oh, it was love at first sight. She really shows up genuine, questioning old patterns of beliefs and habits, which many of you know that's kind of my jam. But really, she's a thought leader. She's a healer, and her passion is just helping people break free so that they can really experience freedom and joy and free from suffering. So, Karen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. What an honor, Carrie. Thank you, thank
I
you, thank you.
know. And I mean the accolades are like there, right? I mean, I'm not one to be like a title person. I even struggle to say what I am, but man, you're a four-time international bestseller. You know, you've gone through I was just reading all this stuff, and so you've been doing the work for a really, really long time. Can you share with the audience what kind of got you on this journey to helping other people kind of rediscover who they are and show up it living life well?
Yeah, absolutely. The chills already. Oh my God,
I
that's
love it. That's good.
I I keep going back to the age 5. Could be 6, could be 7, but 5 keeps popping up in my brain. But I remember being a very inquisitive child, and I would ask my father a gazillion questions, and he would finally say, "Go play, go out, go do life. You ask too many questions. Like, shut up. Kids would be seen, not heard, right?"
Yeah.
So I grew up in that era.
Yeah.
Fast forward, I go into nursing. And in nursing, they would tell me, Karen, go discharge such and such a patient. Here's all their meds and send them home. And I'm looking at the meds going, they're masking the symptoms. You're not getting to the root cause. Like, shut up and just do your job and go home, kind of thing. And I was like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel right. What's wrong with this picture? And because I was very subservient, people pleaser, and didn't have a voice, didn't have the confidence to really stand up to anybody or talk back, let alone, God, I would shrivel up to like a nothing. And I, when I got married, my former husband was like, "You're going to stay home, my kid, and raise the kids. My mom did it. You should do it too." And I'm like, but I want to go for medicine. No, not my wife of mine is going to do medicine. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll do law. No, 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 no. You're going to stay home and deal with the kids. Yes, sir. How high, sir? I got you, sir. That kind of thing. So I gave away my power early on.
Yeah. God, that had to feel so icky. I mean, I remember when I was in that situation, and
Yeah.
I think about it and the malaise I existed in. Yeah.
Yes. There was no hope. There was no, I felt like I was flatlining life.
Yeah.
For lack of-
Yeah.
And one of the things that um, one of the things that I recall so vividly was divorce hit. Got married and I thought it was going to last forever. And granted, it wasn't great, but I kept saying one day, someday it'll get better. And, I just kept banking it or whatever he would do. I put it back and, it'll get better. He's stressing, so I was making a gazillion excuses.
Yeah.
And being a mother of 3 smart children, when divorce hit, I was freaking out
Was
because
it unexpected?
it was inevitable, but I wasn't willing to see it, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah, I get that.
and I didn't have the fortitude or the wherewithal of how to end it,
Yep.
and so many people will even say to me today, like, I'm in a relationship, I'm like, "Why are you with that person?" I don't know how to end it because we've not been taught. We've not
Yes.
been taught communication skills. So one of the things, my former husband would refuse to talk to me any longer, so everything was prolonged through the court systems, and all I kept thinking was, some judge is going to decide my fate and the fate of my children. And they
Yeah.
were our children, but as far as I'm concerned, they're my children.
Yeah.
I raised them. And I just recall so vividly saying no. It was, I'm very intuitive anyway, but I just recall saying, no, I'm not going to let that happen. So I stepped into communication courses. I was committed to never, ever being in this situation again. I remember one night just saying, nope, that's it. The buck stops here kind of thing. And I delved into communication courses and I said, nobody's going to create my fate but me.
Yeah. I love that.
And delved into communication. And all of a sudden, it was like somebody said to me, well, why don't you go into life coaching? And I'm like, no, 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 that's not for me. I felt like Dear Abby my whole life. People have been coming to me forever. You know, and I'm not here to tell people what to do or how to do it. I'm here to support and be the wind beneath your wings. So I empower people to really regenerate and recreate themselves. So during the time of my
I
divorce,
want to pause. Hello, mic drop. Yes. I think, I struggle a lot because I'm a big fan of everybody has their own journey, everybody has their own path. However, when I see like these courses or these specific programs, I'm like, yes, my job is to, teach you things I know, but my job is to create a framework of love and support, unconditional support for you to figure out what works for you. That to me is so transformative because it teaches people self-reliance, resilience, empowerment,
exactly.
like self-love, so many things. So thank you so much for saying that to the community.
Right.
That's really important.
Yeah, I didn't know how to love myself. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in an era where it's selfish to love yourself.
Mhm.
Here's a toy for you, Karen, and I remember it so vividly. Here's a Barbie doll, Karen. You play with the Barbie doll, but I'm like, but I want to play with my brother's trucks. No, you can't, share your toys, share your toys. I'm like, but this is mine now. And, I mean, I'll play with my brother if he wants to, but, he didn't want to, and I want to play
Yeah.
with his. No, you're being selfish, right? So that
Yeah.
was the message we're getting. We're being selfish. So how can we possibly love ourselves? Because now you're being selfish if you're thinking of yourself. So I grew up with that conversation of like make wrong. Well, that translates to not enough, and not enough translates to whatever else we make that not enough mean. So
Unworthy. Yeah. All the things for sure.
exactly, exactly. So I came with that baggage, for lack of better. And I remember during my divorce very vividly, my second horse gets struck by lightning. I live here in Florida, which is the lightning capital of the world.
Yeah.
And I went, oh, it'll never happen to me. That'll never happen to me. Well, it happened twice. And I was on a spiritual journey back then. And my spiritual mentor said to me, Karen, when are you going to look up the meaning of lightning strike? And I was like, I already know what that means. And she laughed and she says, okay. And I'm like, I don't want to be responsible for it because I didn't have that self-confidence or the self-worth at the time. And after I heard her laugh and say it like that, I just looked at her and I went, yeah, I'm going to do that. And when you
Yeah.
look at the meaning, it's all about being a light in the world, a light bearer. And I've been living that message ever since.
Yeah.
So right around that time, right, my vet says to me, Karen, you're going through a divorce. It's going to be really expensive. Your horse, put him down, put him down. And I remember getting really still, closing my eyes, taking a deep breath. And literally, he was in front of my face, and my eyes flung open. And I said, nope, I'm not putting him down. He and I are going to be catalysts for change. And I went, he's looking at me,
Know where
and I'm
that
looking.
came from, but okay.
I don't know where that came from.
Don't you love that? You're like, wait a minute. I don't know where that came from, but okay.
Right, I'm gonna rock out with that. Well, fast forward within a couple of weeks, and I didn't know what that meant or where I was gonna go with that statement. Within a couple of weeks, my mom, who was a hypochondriac, she was 2.5 hours away from me. And she calls me up and she's slurring her words. So now normally she'll call and I'm like busy with these little kids and I've got one on the boob, and it's just like, yeah, mom, look at you on the phone and I'm like half-ass listening and she was slurring her words this time. And she was a person who at 70 years of age, she wanted to be heard, seen, and loved like the rest of us, right? And she never felt that because the stories she was telling herself were not enough. Not her mother told her, what man in their right mind would want to marry you
Yeah.
when you look like an ugly duckling? What mother says that to their child? I mean,
Yeah.
so already it set the stage for not enough and not worthy for her. And I drop everything and I go to her apartment. I let myself in, and there on the floor was my mother in a fetal position. I never saw my mother on the floor. What I saw was a young child that was screaming for attention and love and just like curled up in fear. And I looked on her bedside stand and there were 19 medications there.
Yeah.
Every time she took her new artwork to the doctor, so I have a migraine headache. Here's a prescription. She would take her artwork. Ooh, ah, oh, this is beautiful. And then within 2 weeks, she'd call them back. Now the medication you gave me is
It's
making
God.
me nauseous.
Yep.
Oh, ah, your artwork is beautiful. Here's a new prescription. 19 medications in. I said, the buck stops here. I'm
So
going to be
let's highlight that though, because I think it's important. You're referencing her physical ailment manifestation as artwork. Is that what you are? Yeah.
yeah,
Which I totally I'm gonna derail for a minute because I think it's profound that people understand. My daughter has a classmate. This child is 16 years old and has a new ailment every day. And me being the mom I am, I'm like, babe, you got to understand she's manifesting this. And every time I talk to this child, who's a beautiful child, but the first thing out of her mouth is some ailment and stuff. And I said to my daughter, I said, I'm going to tell you right now, she's going to live a very ill life if somebody doesn't intervene, and her parents are placating these illnesses.
exactly, because that's all they know.
Yes. Yep, absolutely. There's no judgment, but I want my daughter to understand, like, you will manifest what it is that you believe. And if you believe you're unworthy and you believe and you fail to get that attention, you're going to find a way to get it, even if it is in a way that's detrimental to your own well-being without knowing.
Without, because
Yeah,
what you think about, you bring about. Let's take it a step further, right? Word creates reality. In the beginning was the word. So if
absolutely.
you tell yourself you're not enough, you're going to look, your brain is going to look for evidence because between the ages of 1 and 6, your brain is being developed. And I love the story of little Johnny. I tell this to my clients all the time. Little Johnny goes into this grocery store and he's getting a box of cereal. And I don't know about you, but when I used to look at boxes of cereal, I don't eat the cereal today. But when I used to look at it at the very bottom shelf, right? Subliminal messaging, there were the boxes with the little toys inside. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Which one do I want? Well, in the meantime, mom is going, okay, Johnny, make a decision. Well, mom's with the shopping cart going down the aisle and she's turning the corner. Little Johnny looks up, can't see mom anymore, right? I've been abandoned, right? So now he's going to look for proof that mom doesn't love him because she abandoned him, right? So between the
So you
ages of 6 and 13, he's
yeah,
looking for evidence to make this a reality.
yeah,
Right around the age of 13, right? We're coming into puberty, and little Johnny's looking at the girls. And now all of a sudden he goes with his little Valentine cards. Would you be my Valentine? To this little 13-year-old that goes, oh, well, not only is he been abandoned by his mother, he's now been rejected by other young
yep,
girls. So now he's found more evidence to create more stories,
yep.
right? And by the time he's 21, so between the ages of 13 and 21, he's now found evidence. He's going to be looking from the lens of abandonment and not enough and not worthy.
Absolutely. And like you, I understand our subconscious is built in utero till about 6 or 7 years old, and,
Okay.
it's that's why I'm constantly telling people, not to do the small thing, the small change, however minute it is great, but it's
Okay.
celebrating, and really that it's the words, the verbal affirmation to really
Exactly.
start to break up that old ideology. I love that. But going
Yeah.
back, so you're now sitting with a mom who you've kind of known as this whatever she was to you, and now she is, taking 19 medications, and you're faced with what?
Right. So now I'm looking at it from a different perspective,
Yeah.
right? I'm looking at it from up here rather than this way. And I'm like, I'm a creative problem solver. So what can I do to help alleviate this? So we started looking at all her medications and we started looking like what is really necessary and started slowly peeling back, reverse engineering it and pulling back some of those medications. What's really needed, what's not really needed, what is she had three doctors, they weren't in communication with each other, so we got in touch with each the three and said, this is what's going on, how are we going to make this better? So we
Yeah.
got her down to a lot less medications. You can't just stop
Yeah.
taking
Of
things
course.
because like not even it's a cause and effect, right? For every action there's an opposite and equal reaction. So if you take away your meds consistently all at once, there's going to be a big reaction, right? Your system's going to fail. So knowing that and coming from a nursing background, we definitely didn't want to do that. So we started peeling her back on a lot of it. But by the time we peeled her back, she ended up diagnosing with all sorts of cancers.
Mm,
So she had a rare form of blood cancer, and ironically, she was divorced from my dad for 38, 39 years, something ridiculous. And he ended up manifesting the same exact blood, rare forms of cancer. I thought that was really ironic, right?
that is wild.
And she said to me at one point, my brother said to me after she passed, do you want her medical? Because she looked everything up. She was a researcher. And most researchers, and I'm not saying all, but most researchers are looking for answers. Right. And then all of a sudden it's like, I remember my nursing, I was in nursing school. Oh my God, I think I have that. Or I think and then the next thing you know, you're manifesting more of what you don't want, right? What
That's
you
why
think about, you bring
WebMD,
about.
worst thing. I mean, because even my daughters, one of them in particular would come in, and I'm like, "Babe, stop looking that stuff up. You're growing." And I'm growing, baby.
Exactly.
You don't want to feed your brain with that crap. I'm like, "No."
Exactly. Because you're going to manifest it. What you think about, you bring about. So, it was just like, I was like, nope, tear it up, rip it up, give it away. I don't want to even I don't even want to touch that book.
You know what's so funny? I don't know how, like, yesterday I'm doing a workout, and all of a sudden I got clear as day image of my mother telling me, well, our family always has bad knees. We all have bad knee issues. Now my twin sisters already have had knee surgery. And I remember when she said that, I'm like, I don't have bad knees. And I, for whatever reason, and I'm thinking as I'm working out yesterday, I'm like, I don't have bad knees. And it truly is because I never bought in to the belief that because I was part of this family with knee issues, I had bad knees. And
Exactly.
it's that's the power of language. It's so true.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a friend who since she was five, she was the fifth child in line, and she wanted dad's attention. And she had an aunt that had cancer, and everybody was doting over the aunt. And so she associated with illness, not knowing what cancer was, she associated illness with attention. So
Yep.
she became a hypochondriac later in life, and it became patterned. It becomes a habit, becomes a pattern until you break that pattern. It's going to be more of the same, more of the same, more of the same. So today she's in her 60s. She has all sorts of ails. And it's like we do this to ourselves. The mind is a very powerful tool. And
It
that's
is
what I'm
so
here to
true.
shift. That's what I'm here to shift.
You and I both, just in
Yeah.
different spaces, but really the same. And I love that. So yeah, I mean, your mother manifested all these cancers, I'm sure, as a nurse, and you kind of walked, her through this all while going on your own healing journey. That had to be quite insightful, I can only imagine.
It's so interesting you say that, Carrie, because people say to me all the time, being a single mom of three young children, it was like, how do you do that? Oh my God, I can barely do it with one. It's like you just step up and you do what you have to do. You don't think about it. You just do it, right? So it was just one more thing to manage. I mean, I'm in right now, here and now in this present moment, I'm managing a lot. How are you doing it? One step at a time. I had a major accident, I think I shared with you before in Costa Rica last January. And I remember looking out the window and seeing, for me, it was a mountain. I don't live in Costa Rica. Come to find out, it was only a volcano. But for me, it might have been the
Yeah,
tallest mountain in the world. And I'm looking at this mountain saying, how do you transverse the mountain? How do I get to the other side? How do I get home? I don't speak Spanish you know. And I remember looking down at my feet, and my little toe was the only thing that I could move. And I'm looking down at it, and I'm like, one little movement at a time, I'm going to make it up that mountain. And when you're focusing on what's in front of you, you don't see the height of the mountain. You
yeah,
go beyond it, and then you get there when you get there.
yeah.
And
I
it's
love
just
that story.
impressive.
And it's so true. I mean, in any area of life, whether it's trying to get promoted in a job or trying to overcome addiction, or even, getting out of chronic depression where you're bedridden, which is where I once lived and I
Yeah,
help people come out of. It's what if you just take the covers off today? I mean, it can be as simple as that. And
yeah,
but I think so often we're conditioned to look for the big things, the grandiose things, that we lose sight of what is in front of us, that gives us the ability to then take the next really small step
exactly.
and take the next step. So, and I didn't realize you were in an accident last year. So
Yeah.
that's really powerful as well.
Oh yeah, life happens, right? And it becomes how you respond to it, rather how you react to it. So I mean, I had choice. People were like, "Are you pissed off at the horse?" Because it was a horsing. I love horses. I have
Yeah.
horses myself, so I'm not far into that. But I decided after COVID, and I'm going to get out. I'm going to get out and meet people and do what I love doing. And we went on the boat on the first night. My second day, the second morning, we went out on a horseback riding excursion, and I didn't know anybody on the trip, but they all take off and the horse was behind and it would like move away from the salt water. And the guy comes back and he's like, "You're just, why don't you want to catch up with the group?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but your horse has sore feet." He goes, his hooves, he keeps throwing his shoes. And I'm like, "Why would you have shoes on a horse that's in water?" Their hooves are like our nails. It's the same material, actually. If you have your nails in water long enough, they're going to become soft, right?
Yeah.
Imagine ripping off a shoe that's nailed to your nails, ripping your nail. It's painful. Salt on an open wound. How can I be pissed off at the horse? I
Yeah.
can't. He was sore. So when we got up to the group, though he was attentive, we were all talking together, and a wave hit him from behind. So he spun around to look at the wave. I went flying 6 feet on the air and landed on my butt, totally severed my left hip. So I have a
Wow.
titanium. I had major surgery down there. Don't speak the language, as I said. So it was like I had a choice. I had a choice, be here now.
Yeah, with
Be
what
in
is,
the
rather than expect. It's so funny, I think of the parable where there is like a sage or some Sufi, whatever, and he stumbles off a cliff and he's looking, and as he's falling to his death, he has a choice, right? He fall in fear, or he focuses on this beautiful rose at the top of this mountain and looks and says, "How lovely." And it truly, but I mean, it seems simple and it's not, because it's a choice you have to make in the moment of the experience that you're having. But I think you and I do enough work that we can cultivate that choice. But
exactly.
it's a choice to be afraid or just to experience what you can in that moment in gratitude and joy.
Right.
And that it's
And
such
look,
a practice.
Yeah, and look, it is a practice without a doubt. And let's face it, I mean, I've invested a lot of money in myself and in in my education, thus so I can give back to others. And choice, it's like going to the gym. It's like the more you practice and build that muscle, the easier it becomes. So it keeps me away from reacting as quickly as I would have in the past. And now I'm able to respond. And then I'm able to look for the silver lining. Okay, it sucks. I'm laid out. I'm in a diaper. I'm in a foreign country. I can't move. I can't go to the bathroom, which was like inches from my bedside. And I'm far away from anything that I know. Okay,
Yeah,
what's the silver lining in this? And I had a lot of time to contemplate that. So I started looking for things to be grateful for. I'm alive. It could have been so much worse, right? I'm being well cared for, even though I don't speak the language. People are very loving and kind, and I'm very grateful for that. So when you start shifting the perception, what you think about, you bring about, right? And when you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things changed. So I started looking at it from a silver lining and being here now. I had was supposed to be back on the 17th of February of January, and I think it was like the 20th. I had a master class that had 58 people signed up for it. And they're like, "You're not doing that master class." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am. I don't care that I'm in a hospital gown. I don't care that the IVs are flowing. I'm showing up for my people because that's what I'm committed to." So it wasn't a, "Oh my God, the sky is falling. Oh my God, I'm laid out in pain." And was like, "Please close the door. Give me an hour." And and
yeah,
I have to share, not that I have to, I choose to share with you, Carrie. When I was focused for that hour on the people on that screen, on the Zoom screen, those 58 people, I didn't feel any pain. I
yeah,
was in the moment. I was here now. And you know what? I rocked it. They rocked it. They were thrilled. They got what they came for. And I was so grateful that I chose, because it's a choice, to show up. And the more I show up for myself, the easier it is. So I've been trained, like I said, in communication. I have team leadership and management skills. So I was like, okay, this is what is. How am I going to get myself home? Right. Well, I can't do it alone. I'm going to create a team. I immediately got into action. I called the embassy. I called American Express. I didn't even know, right? Had a medical service, right? And I didn't use my American Express card, but they served me because I have one. And I hadn't known that, but because I was in conversation with other people in the know, you ask the questions, ask and it's given, knock and the door opens. So I created a team and I said, I'm going to focus on my healing. I'm going to focus on getting myself home. And you all are going to, so I delegated. And it was amazing how people stepped up. And if they didn't know, they found other people that did, to the point where they were able to get me home. My girlfriend did a GoFundMe and was able to, I spoke to the airlines and, I went on a Delta flight. Delta tells you you have to be able to walk onto the airplane. I couldn't walk. I had a
yeah.
walker, I almost left the walker behind. I'm glad I, I took it with me, you know. And you do what you got to do, yeah. And it was like, okay, feet, okay, body, I still have arms. How am I going to manage this? And I shifted to American Airlines and they were fabulous. I can't give them enough kudos. Not only did they carry me onto the plane, they met me at the taxi and they put me into transportation after the plane flight, got my luggage for me and put me on it was just like such a beautiful transition going through that. I will always be grateful to American Airlines for the service they gave me. They wouldn't
Wow.
let me go to the bathroom. She wouldn't help me to the bathroom. But I thought, okay, I'm going to change my own diaper, and it was embarrassing. And it's like, but you allow the vulnerability and you allow people to contribute.
And it's you touch upon so many points that I conveyed in my community, and I think it's so important. We've got to ask for help, and we have to set aside our ego, our pride.
Yeah.
I never finished high school, and I was able to work my way up to corporate ladder, to the heights of leadership. And I've also opened up businesses, and it's because I had to survive, and so there was this early on this understanding that I had to ask for help. I had to set aside my pride, and too often I see people inhibit their ability to grow and expand because they're prideful and they don't want to ask for help. So much so that I actually was talking to somebody last week who literally pooped in their pants because they were too embarrassed to ask their client to use their bathroom while they were doing a home visit. And I said, I was like, this is where we really fail to recognize we are all interconnected. People want to help you, but if you're not willing to be vulnerable, you'll
Yeah.
never receive the help. So that's powerful. But I do want to take a step back because I know that you had mentioned, you know, you had this like epiphany with this vet who's like, put down your horse, and you like, me and this horse are going to,
Mhm.
I can't remember your exact words. Talk to me about how that evolved seemingly so quickly after 2 weeks. I know you said your mom was had gone through her health issues, but how did you kind of step into where you're at alongside, with that epiphany with your horse?
Um, I trusted, right? Have the faith of a mustard seed. So I just trusted the universe was going to guide me. And when I look back at the steps that I took afterwards, I can actually say I felt guided. I got into quantum physics and neuroscience. I don't know why, but it was like I couldn't get enough of that.
Me
And
and you both, sister. I love it.
and it was just like, where's this coming? Okay, So I just kept investing in myself, and every single thing I invested in aligned with who I am today and what I do today. So there was nothing that took me off track, I should say. And I did do the shiny syndrome thing for a while, and until I realized that, like, what I have and what I need is within me. Because ended up, after I did quantum physics, neuroscience, I studied world religions because I was looking for something outside of myself. And when I realized that the common thread amongst religions was self-compassion,
And love.
really? Self-love.
It
So
is.
it was
Love
like,
and freedom from guilt. I think it's so funny.
yeah.
I tell people all the time, um, if you're sacrificing, that's not love. And if you are operating from guilt, that's not love. And I think too often it's so convoluted and so backwards because you and I mean, I didn't even remember when you jumped on, but that's why I just immediately loved you because I, like you, studied neuroscience, quantum physics, world theology, and very much like you have that strong understanding that it is truly within your power to
Absolutely.
experience life however you want, but it's going to be an internal process, not an external. There's no magic pill, there's no magic program. There's no magic religion. There's nothing. It's you learning yourself, getting very, very clear about who you want to be, how you want to show up in the world, and being okay with that, even when the world pushes back. I mean, look,
Yeah.
my my skull's a symbol. You have a horse. Like, there's a lot of people who could be like, how could you do what you do with that type of branding? And I'm like, because I want to, because I can.
It's so interesting you say that because my girlfriend worked in New York in advertising and marketing and whatnot. And she says, Karen, you can't do that. I'm like, why not? And she says to me, nobody's going to buy into that. I'm like, well, they don't have to buy into that. That's me. This was a download, sorry, that way, tranquil solutions, right? I've educated myself in the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. So that's what I bring to this skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
And I know what I'm talking about. I've become an expert in that now. The horse the horse for me is a symbol of integrity. That's my core value. Most people don't even know what a value is. So that's one of the things I run them through. So at any rate, I just shared with you my horse got struck by lightning. So I hired somebody on Fiverr and I said, I have this vision of a horse head because horse energy represents for me, right? Power, beauty, grace, and ease. And that's the energy that I embody.
Mm.
I choose to embody, right? So I want this to represent the lightning strikes. The butterfly is all about transformation. I've already been through the process. I know what it's like to go through that process. I feel you, right? So he came back to me with all these, oh, they were so bad. They were so bad.
Isn't it the
And
way it
all,
goes?
right, and all of a sudden, I open up my laptop, my computer, and I had a big old desktop, and it took up the whole thing with this. And I went, that's
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Oh my God, he nailed it. And I was so excited. I showed my kids, my daughters, and they're not kids anymore, but and my daughter, of course, being the tech that she is, and I don't know what I don't know, I'm not of that generation. She says to me, Mom, he plagiarized. You can't use that. I'm like, what? So I went back to him, and instead of, now here's another lesson, right? Instead of making people bad and wrong, I didn't even say I knew this was plagiarized. I never used those words. I said, would you please kindly go back? I love it. Would you please go back to the artist that created it and ask permission to use it?
Yeah.
Communication, right? He disappeared. So I got online, and Zhengtu, you can't really see it here, but underneath the butterfly going down is Zhengtu's name. And he is an amazing artist out of Indonesia. So I contacted him and I said, listen, this is the story. This is what happened. The guy plagiarized. My horse got struck by lightning. I love it. And if you look really close, they're all butterflies to
Oh,
depict,
wow.
to depict the lightning strike, right? I said, what would you charge me to use this for my branding and my logo? And I know it's not something that people normally do, but it's something that speaks to my heart. Would you let me know? He came back, he said, thank you so much for sharing this story. This is my gift to you, when I
Yeah.
told him what I was up to. So you never know when you keep the integrity and how it's going to show up in your life. So do I care what people think about the horse? No, it's a reminder to others that they can step into they have their own inner beauty, power, grace, and ease. It's just a matter of letting it unfold and transforming it into a new story.
So beautiful. And much like you, something that I've learned, and I guess this really goes back to you and I's understanding of quantum physics. So when you operate from an energetic vibration of love, you attract regardless. It doesn't matter. And so
Sure.
knowing that, but also to your point of having core values, and how can I truly say I'm showing up as the unapologetic full expression of who I want to be, but then minimize how I show up in one area of my life, i.e., business, because I'm concerned with how people will react. You can't. And I think that's important. The other thing that I want to highlight to the community for anybody who's really getting something from this conversation is you you walk the walk, right? I think that's why I have such a respect and admiration for you, because I've done it too, and it is hard. It's
It is.
arduous. It's not easy.
No,
And
no.
I imagine you, like myself, we did it kind of alone. There weren't people like you and me, or at least to my knowledge at that time. Because I got to tell you, I spent a lot of money,
Yeah.
and I, even at that time, had more insight and understanding and wisdom than the people I was paying to help me. And that was actually my aha moment. It wasn't so much all of my studies. It was when I was literally coaching the people I hired to coach me. I was like, okay, this is bananas. No way am I going to keep seeking outside of myself. But we didn't have that, and so I love that you're constantly showing up, and even now you're honest. You're like, I'm going through a lot, but I'm present in the moment, and I'm witnessing and experiencing it, rather than saying everything's hunky-dory. It's no, I'm open to the experience I'm having, because it is what it is. And
Exactly.
in doing that,
Yeah.
you go through it and you grow through it, and that's what makes you an expert in what you do,
Yeah,
for sure.
exactly. And I still have coaches. I still invest in myself because there are people who have walked before me that are a little ahead of the game. So, they keep me on track. So, because I've learned to know myself now, I know what my strengths are, and I hire them to my weaknesses. So
Yes.
this way I can build myself up to become even stronger. It's all about the becoming. Like, who am I becoming? Who do I want to show up in the world? I'm not here to impress anybody. I'm not here. You either like me or not. You're going to resonate or you're not. Like attracts like,
Yeah.
and, I'm not offended by it any longer. I've sort of let that one go. It's like in my 20s, everybody had to love me. And if you didn't, oh my God, what's wrong with me? It's not about that anymore. It's more, who I'm becoming as a response to the experiences
Mm,
and
so good.
yeah, so it's been an incredible journey. Has it been easy? Like you said, no, it's very arduous. However, because I'm becoming this strong, people say to me, "Oh my God, Karen, you're so strong." Well, I mean, I have my weaknesses. I cry at the drop of a hat.
But I
I
love
was looking
that.
I was
I
looking
think
at the
that
little monkey thing on the TikTok the other day, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like with a little baby. It's okay. And my daughter's like, Mom, and I'm like, I have a heart. I got up on stage. We did a book, one of the fourth international bestseller, Healthopedia. Yeah, it's so aligned with who I am and what I'm doing on a holistic. It's the Healthopedia, putting the puzzle pieces together, hit number one in 13 which is unheard of, 13 categories in one day, in 24
wow.
hours. And it's a collaborative book, and it is the physician's desk reference in holistic as opposed to like
Yep,
Western medicine.
yep.
So we did a summit down in Boca the beginning of the year, and I got up on stage and I was like, "Yeah, I'm all set for my speech." She whispers in my ear something, and I can't even remember what it was, and I'm like, my God, I'm just okay being me. People, it's like take away, just be vulnerable and just be yourself because that's the real authentic Karen. That's what I'm bringing to the table. When people talk to me on social media, I'm all across all the social medias, Facebook. I don't let my VA touch that. That's me. So I'm responding, I'm answering questions, I'm there, I'm present for to really lift and support people. And I think that makes such a difference in today's world where it's like, oh, somebody else can manage it or somebody
Yeah,
else can do it. So it's learning to be you unapologetically. I
yeah,
was sharing with somebody the other day, when they ask me how you do, I'm perfectly imperfect and I'm okay with that.
yeah. It's so funny. I really when you said you cry at a drop of a hat, me too, but there's two things that I understand for myself to be true. One, expressing emotion, whatever that emotion is a sign of strength because you are allowing yourself to just have the human experience and whatever's coming up for you. And that also helps you move through experiences much more quickly. You're not stuck in the emotional remnants of the experience because you're just feeling it. And so it
Exactly.
is ultimately a sign of strength. Um, and then secondly, to show up you, that's the good stuff. That is because then you know love. Right? And it's so funny when you say, you're working on who you're becoming. I'm becoming love. Like if I know it. It's I'm an unfolding into this light and love that is just expansive. And I don't even know what that has to look like, but I know that's what it is. And the only way I receive that love is by being that love. But the only way to be that love is to be true to you. And that means true to showing up in a skull shit shirt on an interview, swearing on my interviews, or whatever is true to me. And there's no right or wrong, good or bad. It's just what
That's
feels
right.
good. And when
That's
we
it.
can step into what feels good,
Absolutely.
then the world opens up in ways you can't even imagine. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what
So
I love about you, Carrie, is you're just so real and you give so much from a heart space. Just putting this together, it's not for me, it's not for you, it's really for the listeners. And that's what my podcast is all. It's all about raising the vibrational energy so
yeah.
others can realize and what their power is. And we all have it. We all have that heroine hero within us. It's just stepping into it and practicing it. I
Yeah.
mean, there are days, I mean, I've come a long way. There are days it's like, oh, I'm so tired. I don't want to show up. And then I show up and I'm glad I did.
Yeah, I love that. Well, as we begin to wrap up, is there one thing, and this is so hard, I know, because you're so wise and you've gone through so much, but can you think back to one thing that you didn't know, even maybe a year ago, that has helped you continue to be perfectly imperfect and just live in the moment and experience life as it's unfolding?
Oh, that's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question. I prophesied it.
Yes, a year ago. Well, a year ago, let me see, I was in the hospital. I went to Costa Rica and I said, I know every year I put a word on a rock and I put it
Mhm.
by my bedside. And I remember before I got there, I said, there's something that I'm meant to learn this year. I didn't think it was going to be like, you never know. So don't
You
be attached
never know.
to what you put out there. So that's number one. Don't be attached to anything, right? In that respect. And before I left, the word surrender came up for me. It was like a clear surrender, and I put it on a rock. And when I got down there, it came up surrender for me again. Let go of that which doesn't serve you. It doesn't serve you. It's it, right? The past is the past.
Yep.
Right? You can hold on to it as near and dear as you want. It's not serving you. You can't change it. You can't manipulate it, right? The future, most people look at the future with anxiety. The anxiety isn't serving you either, and you can't control a future that you have no say over. Be here now, be in the
Yep.
moment, and always be grateful and always look for the silver lining right here and now. When you look and find that silver lining, you're always going to, it's going to keep you in gratitude, which is a positive outlook, which is going to keep you out of the negative. Like attracts like, and you're more likely to manifest what you want in your life.
Yeah. So beautiful. Well, for anybody who gained as much as I did from this just
Thank you.
amazing conversation, I will have Karen's information definitely in the show notes. Please feel free to reach out. And if you're thinking as you watch this, maybe I am stuck or maybe I don't know how to shift out and you feel like Karen could be a good fit, I highly recommend she does the work herself. And so I would put my stamp of just an exceptional person who can really guide you towards and on your own healing journey. So until next time, guys, it's always a deep privilege. Go ahead.
Real quick, anyone who's interested, if you go to my website, which will be in the show notes, I have a free gift for you.
Yeah,
I,
I love that.
yes,
Yay.
it's a very grounding stress because stress, are stressors, looking at your stressors and knowing yourself. It's a checklist that will support you in getting out of stress. So it's a step up. Feel
I
free
love
to
that.
grab it. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karen. This has been a gift. Until next time, guys, take good care of yourself and remember, laugh often because life is not meant to be taken too seriously.